guys, this is Stacy from Fashion Business Weekend, the designer behind the brand Elsa Fitzgerald, and I'm going to start a new approach to my videos. I think a lot of them are kind of, me sitting and it's all structured, but I wanted to kind of carry you along the real kind of steps and journey, even from like the simple steps. For example, before I shoot a video, if I have time, I like to make myself look presentable. So when you're creating video content, you're gonna wanna make sure your face is not shiny and your makeup's not smudged, and if you're a guy and you don't need to wear makeup, it's not a big deal, but obviously be really animated and a lot more dramatic than what you'd usually be. Not that you're being fake, but you're really trying to convey your personality, and sometimes through video it tends to kind of lessen because you're nervous or you're not used to speaking. You don't know where you're supposed to look. I still don't know where I'm supposed to look. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to curl my hair while I talk to you. I actually have a meeting with a gentleman that came to one of our workshops here at the Bromo Tower, and we're going to go through an exercise discussing with him how to build his brand. He's already created his product, but the challenge is that they are travel bags and they are on the premium side, so they look amazing. But today's video and content is going to be really created around how do you build a brand. And I think people think about a brand as a name. A brand is not a name, it's just what you link to that concept, and it's difficult to describe because it's very emotionally based. So luxury fashion shopping is really buying into a world of imagination. That's the other thing. So another sidebar is with the content, I think I've been in the fashion industry for about 18 years, and when I'm talking about it, I think I talk about it in such a way that I expect that you understand it, or you come from that industry, and I talk very quickly over concepts. But what I'm going to try to do is, instead of covering so much information in a short time, I'm going to try to break it down and go into more detail. So I was going back to when I was building my brand, Elsa Fitzgerald, and what was that process? And that process started with photography. Not necessarily me taking pictures, but collecting images, because I needed to figure out actually, I didn't even have the name yet. It was me collecting images and references that I really kind of was captivated by, and I collaged them onto a board. So I've gotten my mood boards, and I'll tell you where I bought everything, and also what main tools I need to do that. So what I used, just probably, let's say an hour and a half before I had to be here for this meeting, was I used Pinterest. Now, if you don't already know, Pinterest is an online platform where you can kind of collage images. It can also be used as a selling platform, but anyway, for the exercise I did today, I make collages on different themes. Some of those collages I already created, and they're called like you're almost like your pin board. And then what I did is I went through my images, and then I pulled the images that really symbolized what I'm trying to imagine for my brand Elsa Fitzgerald going forward. But I also did an exercise where I was thinking about what is Elsa Fitzgerald today. Now that I'm back in Baltimore, I wanted to kind of think about a new season, a new collection, and I used that as reference. So anyway, once I got my images, I then went to Walgreens. If you're in the US, Walgreens has a app that you can put on your phone, and you can literally print out pictures. You can use your printer to print out the images, but I find with the cost of printing, I'm going to blow through like $50 worth of ink. So what I did is I found the coupon code for Walgreens. You just Google coupon code, and I chose 50 images. That worked out to like seven with tax, maybe $8 to $9, and I have the images I need for my board. And even more recently, from a branding point of view, I'm really inspired by vintage, whether it's 1920s, 1950s, just kind of that nostalgic dressmaker idea. So I've also started branding myself. So you are your brand, at least to a certain degree, because in the earlier stage, if you're a small startup, you are going to be the spokesperson or your partner, whoever you're working with. There's someone within your founding group, which is usually like one, maybe two people, who's going to represent you as a company. So then you want to start thinking about not only of like your design reference, but also as a company, what you want to create, what you want to embody. And in the background, you probably see some paintings here. I share my design studio with a local artist. He does what we call local surrealism, and we've collaborated on a few different projects, so art gallery projects. But if we talk about brand and story references, I was very inspired by Elsa Schiaparelli. She's a designer from the 20s, and she, worked with a lot of different artists, and it really influenced her fashion. So I will take you over to my collection. After you do, and I'm just using a tripod, and if you can see, I've got this black light, backlight. And I know this stuff's probably like common sense, but I know when I was starting out, I really had no clue what I was doing, so I want to just really talk about like little things like that. So then I probably want to maybe move the camera around. And right now I have my iPhone on a tripod. iPhone resolution is actually pretty good. I use iMovie to edit the content, which you can find videos on that. Okay, so let's see how that goes. So I'm gonna place that here, and I might just walk over the garments too. Anyway, so when I started my design process, I created my collages, and these collections here are from my previous collection that I did in Bali, Indonesia. And that's where my designs are heavily influenced by vintage 1920s elegance, a bit of Balinese traditional garment kabaya. I have plenty of videos on that, but anyway, I just want to show you where those ideas led. And I started figuring out like a color palette. So I use like this light pastel blue, I use these powdery pinks, I even have this kind of champagne cream, and very delicate, very lightweight. I call the collection a bit like outdoor lingerie. Not for the sense of being sexy per se, which the garments are a little bit more sophisticated, as I say, but I wanted it more to have the feeling of that 1920s flapper, but modern day flapper. So when you see the garments, I wanted you to get the sense of this vintage feel, but a lot of vintage garments are, obviously they're older, and some of them are very fitted and they come in small sizes. Sometimes they fit me, but I just love the feeling of them. They're very feminine. So through the fashion collection, I wanted to bring back a bit of that nostalgia, that femininity. So if you look at my outfit today, it's a vintage garment I got from Elegant City, Retropolitan, at Taylor's Collective. But still, it does kind of take you back in terms of a look, with the nipped waist and the pleating. So I started painting recently, so I have been referencing some of these paintings. And then, for the range plan, like what products are you actually going to create? So this is like piano shawl. And there, I love this kind of like robe with the black and gold and fringe. It has that flapper. It has a kind of Asian influence. It has a very minimal look. And I love this one as well with this kind of pleating. You can see behind me one of my dresses from my collection. Modern day garment, but I've taken inspiration from this, not this vintage garment, but that kind of look and coloring. This. Here we are. I have put the images on my table, so I'm going to cut out the images. There's the Duchess of Windsor. She's actually from Baltimore, and the collection I'm designing this season is called the Duchess of Baltimore. She's not a real person. She's just kind of a make-believe person that I've made up. But you can very much see black and white, black and gold. A little desk here in the studio where I do more of my like businessy work. I have like the different files for the clients we do consulting work for, and the different projects that I have for Elsa Fitzgerald. So I bought these boards. They're like foam boards. You can get them from the dollar store. I mean, you can buy them at Staples for a lot more, but these are pretty good. I use these to, you can use pins, Scotch photo mount. You really need to use this outside. I usually take it into the hallway because you don't want to breathe it in because it is airborne glue in a way. So be really careful, wear a mask. Otherwise, you can use normal glue or pin boards, but the reason I like to use this is if I need to remove it or like move the image around on the board, it's easy to do with this. If you use real glue, you're gonna have to tear your image off. Or you can use tape. I begin to cut the images out. While I was doing my design research, I began to see like different titles or references, and something that came up quite often was Ziegfeld, and it says the man who invented show business. And more recently, I've written a play, and I'm really fascinated with this idea of, this is crazy to say, but creating a fashion company that doesn't have clothes. I mean, what I mean by that is that we're not so concentrated on doing mass production, and the focus is more on creating an entertaining experience. Right now, and if you don't already know, we're here in Baltimore. I'm in the Bromo Clock Tower, the Big Ben of Baltimore. But anyway, so I grabbed this book, and what I'll do is if I find something kind of interesting related to the research I'm doing, design research is not just about looking at pretty things, it's also about reading about people's stories and their lives, and you know, even looking at art, architecture. For example, I like Art Deco. Well, I didn't know I liked Art Deco until I started looking at a lot of the art and architecture, and it kept going back to this reference of this style and time. The other approach that I'm really interested in is not just fashion for entertainment, but fashion for education. So instead of watching your 30-minute Netflix show, could you watch a bit of a life, a 30-minute in the life of a fashion designer slash factory girl slash lecturer slash writer? I know I do a lot of things, but actually I want to like involve you a little bit more. When I started my first blog, which is now book, Bali Fashion Dream, that's what I was looking to do, was to bring the world into this amazing experience of setting up a fashion company in Bali. It's pretty amazing that all those pictures end up coming together to, at least in my imagination, I can kind of understand from a design point of view what I'm looking to do. Hey guys, it's now Saturday morning. I'm much more fresh than last night. I decided to wait to wrap up this video when I am awake and not like mumbling, and I tend to do that when I'm sleepy. We're working on a documentary called Elsa Fitzgerald, and it's around my brand and coming back to Baltimore, and that is premiering kind of a soft launch in November, but the full launch is going to be in the spring of 09, or 09, of 19. Anyway, I will post some more videos for you, and I will bring you along this journey while I make my new fashion collection here in Baltimore, and I hope it helps with your creative process and your journey. See you next time.